Great stuff. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day of our 9 a.m. Facebook Lives.
Morning, everybody. Good to see everyone here, or soon to be here. Yeah, let's get the day started. We've been looking at some of the London auction houses, some of the London auctioneers, and we've just seen some really interesting developments on Savills auction. So we're going to go through what they're doing and why we think it'll be beneficial for you guys to check it out.
Yes, so today I've got a few things to share, and one of the things, obviously, the online auctions, we had discussions, whether people would buy something without viewing, or how to basically rely on properties if there's only a few pictures and stuff like that. And we also had a discussion of how unprofessional the Savills auction looked in March when they were kind of forced to have the first auction. So we will be fair.
We will be fair to that guy. I mean, they obviously adapted to a situation really quickly, tried to make the best of it. He was probably auctioning for about 10 hours straight by himself, so he was an absolute warrior for getting through it. But when you compared it to the other auctioneers that were doing the hybrid approach, they had all their backdrop, they were standing up behind a rostrum, they weren't sitting at a kitchen table. It was a completely different feel. So just as a
it was like some of the auctioneers were like watching Champions League, and the one from Savills was a bit like amateur football league. That was the comparison, basically. But Savills, it looked like obviously they seemed quite surprised by the developments previously in March, but this month it seems like they really pulled their weight. And one of the big things they created is for every vacant lot, they've got a 3D virtual tour, which basically means you can even see more than you would normally see on a viewing, because on a viewing you'll have like 20 people like trying to squeeze past you, and then you can miss things. But with this you can spend as much time as possible as needed, really, to basically look at all the cracks in the walls, all the little things that basically you need to look at. So I posted the link to the auction, to the Savills catalog in the description of this video, so you guys can follow it. And then also, if there's any lot that you see that is super interesting, or you want us to discuss, just let us know. And in the meantime, we're just gonna move on and kind of show you what Savills did. So I'm gonna share my screen.
I think the importance with situations like this is, a lot of people have said, if I can't go in and view it, if they're just taking pictures of the room, or they're just walking through on their camera, what are you going to see, or what are you going to miss? Or are they going to just glide past a corner with damping it really quickly, and you're not really going to get a chance to feel like you're there? So this is normally done via Matterport, and it's 4K 360. They basically put it into a room, they position it every so feet, and it kind of pulls it all together into almost like a video. You can go and you can expand and retract into, or zoom and zoom out of, and it's 4K, so there's a chance it's going to see more than you will
in a video game.
Yeah.
Let's look at this property. So this is a marble house in Maida Vale. I've known this block for 9 years. I think I bought a property there for a client in 2011. So this feels like a good one to discuss. So basically what Savills has got, they've got a typical auction entry. They're usually quite brief with the descriptions, but they just give some basic information. It's a leasehold property from 134 years from 1980, so probably about just under 100 years left.
96, 95 years. Yeah.
But what I think with this block, there's a funny history of this block, because when you look at a picture of the main block, sort of the main exterior, it does look like an ex-council property, right? And this was actually meant to be an ex-council property. It was started, the build started in something like 1960s. And but I think at that time there was some whatever crash collection, and there was no need for the housing. So the council kind of dropped the project, and the private developer basically bought it from them halfway through the project. So they finished this. So that's why it looks like it was basically a council-y type project, but it's actually a private block. And I think most of the flats basically are share of freehold. So even if it says a leasehold, I would check if it's who owns this and who owns the freehold. But that's basically what it is. It's in Maida Vale. It's a 1-bedroom flat. And here's the virtual tour. And Savills have got those tours for all the properties. And basically, this is what it looks like. I'm pretty sure many of you have seen the Matterport tours, but it pretty much feels like a video game. So you can walk around the property, look at all the places. Clearly, this is ground floor. Clearly, it needs some refurbishment, but it's got a nice fireplace. Bathroom and a bedroom. So basically what I like about this is like you can really see everything. Like this is a flat, it's in a block, so there is enough anything that would be, but you can see like some, you know, whatever joinings of the plasterboard in the ceiling, and so you can see whether there was any leak or there was no leak. And it's quite, yeah, it's quite good. When I was looking at it, what I'm missing is they didn't take pictures of the cupboards, and quite often I want to get into the cupboard, like I want to open this and see what's in there. And the same with this cupboard, like come on, what is in there? Like, it feels like a computer game that crashed. So basically, this is what it looks like, and I think it's really good of Savills to basically come up with this for all the vacant properties that they've got. So, for example, another vacant flat in Essex, and again there is a whole tour that you can see. And another good thing with Matterport is you can measure the property. You can click on this measurement mode and click on the part of the wall you want to start the measurement, and then click on the other side. And then that room's got 3 meters 54 centimeters, and it's a phenomenal tool because you know, all the data points are there, so you just basically play around with it. So what do you think, Jay? Would you buy something based on their Matterport?
Yeah, but I've bought properties without viewing them before, so I have a different kind of risk appetite than other people. You know, there's, you know, with you, when you picked out that first lot, you know, you've been to that building, you've probably been in, probably not that flat, but 3 or 4 other flats in that block. So you have kind of like a database within your mind as to what you're looking at, what you're seeing.
My own Matterport.
Your own Matterport, exactly. If there wasn't the Matterport, there would have been internal pictures, and you would have been able to divinate. You probably would have looked at the EPC for a rough size. You'd be able to do a pound per square foot calculation. You'd have half an idea. You know, it's not a trade because it's a probate in the same ownership for 25 years. You know the background of the property and the fact that there's 95 plus years still remaining on the lease. So you're kind of narrowing down all of your risks. And if you're able to buy it well at auction, then actually the viewing is secondary for me. I'm more concerned about the legal pack.
Especially in a block of flats, because in a massive block of flats like this, it's only as many things as can go wrong. You cannot really have, I don't know, structural issues in the flat, because that would affect the whole block, and then the freeholder would have to fix it anyway. So it's I think with flats, it's fairly much safer to buy without viewing, or with viewing a 3D virtual tour. But there's some good comments here. So Lee is saying it's a shame all auction houses aren't doing this. So I think this is very much a time where auction houses come up with creative things. And if one auction house comes up with creative thing that really kicks off, then everyone will have to do it, because everyone, all the sellers will want to go to the auction house that basically does the best job. So I think this is going to be a trend, and
I think this backs up Dan's point of, I think it will give more confidence, but I still want to go and smell the property, hear its noises and nearby roads and things like that.
I promise you, Dan, the smell wouldn't be too good in that property.
Yes, yeah.
You wouldn't buy it based on the smell.
Yeah, that's a probate. The chances are it can take 12 months to 2 years to get a probate and things like that through, depending on the greed or the motivations of the beneficiaries or the executors. So the chances are that property's been vacant for at least 12 months. Yeah. So it's going to be right, but it's not going to be covered in droppings and rats and stuff like that, or cockroaches most likely.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to hear the noise of the neighbouring roads and things like that, you can always do a drive-by. There's that option available to you. But yeah, being in the property, there's no substitute for being in the property and, taking a deep breath, or knocking on the walls, or flushing the toilets, or turning the taps on, whatever ridiculous things you fancy doing. But yeah, there's no replacement for that. This is basically auctioneers coming up with best fit models to enable people to bid with confidence. So there's social lockdown, so they have to do something.
So we're going to show you a property that we purchased, and we purchased this in end of September last year. And we didn't manage to view the property internally because it was tenanted by commercial tenants, and there was no viewings, no access. And the pictures of this property were horrendous. Like, those were like, I don't know who took those pictures, but probably someone who held the camera for the first time. So this is the property. We purchased this in September, and basically these are the pictures. So it's not even the full height of the property, but this was the first picture. This was the second picture, which is a door, and yeah, it shows nothing. And then this is another door. So it just literally shows nothing. And this was pre-lockdown. There was no lockdown. You could take as many pictures as you could. What we did instead, because we couldn't access the interiors, like, we went to basically look at it from outside, and we just measured it from outside. We kind of got an idea of what it could be. And our plan was to basically convert it into residential. So we applied for planning permission, and we are looking to sell this property now because we got planning permission for 4 houses. And I'll show you the CGIs that we just got literally last night from our designers. So basically, this is what the property is going to look like. And we bought this without viewing it, but like internally. But we know what we want to do with it, and for us, the viewing is not. It's not viewing it internally. It's not going to be a deal breaker. Like, because what can be there? Like, there's going to be damp, going to be, I don't know, even cracks or anything like that. Well, this is all fixable if we're planning to convert the property into residential like this, or if the tenants are there, they've got FRI leases, so they have to deal with things also. So basically, sometimes viewing the property is not massively essential. You can go and drive by, you can go and view it from outside, and sometimes that's enough to basically.
I mean, it all comes down to how you're positioning yourself before you bid at auction, right? So you can you know, if there are internal pictures and you're not 100% sure, or in a situation like this, you know, first of all, assume the worst with condition. If you're unable to go in there, always assume that, you know, you're going to have to strip it back to brick or or whatever. You know, it's going to need refurbishment and modernizing. You know, go full hog. Yeah. But also ask very basic questions. So send an email or call up the auction house and say, look, can I speak to whoever's conducting the viewings, whoever's been in there, and then just have a frank conversation with them. Guys, is there any obvious signs of damp? Did you smell anything? Did you see any mold? You know, anything like that? You know, is it fresh in there? You know, by the door frames and window frames, did you see any substantial cracking? You know, it may be they go, look, I opened the door, I didn't go round, I didn't look. You're going to have to come and check it out yourself. Or they'll go, actually, yeah, it's been, actually no one's been in there for a while, so it feels a bit musty, but I didn't see any mold, right? And it's always good to put that in writing and get the response in writing, because then you have that there, right? But if you're going to assume that you can't get in, and you're going to assume all these bad things, but you don't attempt to qualify any of it, then you're never going to bid. You're never going to try and take advantage of a less than favourable situation. And it's less than favourable for the seller as much as it's less than favourable for yourself. But you just have to try and put yourself in a position where you're building as much of a picture around. You know, you've got a puzzle and you're missing the middle pieces, but you've got everything around it that kind of helps you create a silhouette of what you're looking at, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't make much sense, but you want to build as much of a picture as possible, factoring everything that you know and trying to fill in the gaps of what you don't know as best as possible. And if I'm honest, you can go and view as many properties as you like, but without a surveyor going in there and actually telling you what you are looking at, unless you are, of course, a surveyor or a builder, then you're probably not seeing as much as you should be seeing in the first instance. Going in there and viewing is actually just appeasing yourself. You want to see it. So that's my opinion. Piotr, what do you think of that? Do you agree with any of that?
And yeah, it's I think every property is different, so you just need to apply common sense with each property. And if there's opportunity, you know, sometimes in auctions you just need to take risks and you know, see what's the worst thing that can happen and plan for that. So if you plan for the worst thing, then everything else it's a bonus. Like Kim asked a question, what's you know, what if we didn't get planning on that other property? Well, we were prepared for that. In fact, we knew that another unit got rejected 4 times for the same thing that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And we knew that if we buy this, so it was already produced 7% yield from 4 units, and those 4 units like almost certainly could produce twice the amount of rental income.
Yeah, massively underlet.
We could increase the rental income to about £30,000, and a property that we bought for just over 200, we could have let for 30k, and that would sell for 400, 450. So it depends on the quality of the leases and stuff, but it was just poorly presented property in a auction that just wasn't probably right for it, and we managed to basically get it, and we took risks that we thought were reasonable, but still those were risks. There's some questions from other guys.
No, we missed Vinay. This one is directed for you, Piotr. So, hi, what are your thoughts of the guide prices of these properties? Do you think they are more reflective of what's happening in the economy based on your experience in these areas?
Yeah, it's they are just normal, I would say. There isn't anything super special, but basically what's changed is there's only 51 lots in Savills auction instead of 200 or whatever they normally sell. and that means only people who are really looking to sell, they must sell rather than they want to sell. Those people enter properties into an auction. So because there's less properties, there's still going to be people who want to buy them, even though the prices might not be like dropping through the floor. So the prices that are there in the Savills auction are very kind of normal. So that they look cheap, they will attract people, and because there's only 50 properties, most of them will probably sell anyway. So that's my view on this. What else?
We've got one for you, Piotr. Here you go. What was different about your planning application that made it succeed over the failed app? I think my comment would be we had Colin. We had Colin. The other guy didn't have Colin. That's but yeah, there's more to that.
We had Colin Smith, and we basically the other application was refused on the fact that there wasn't enough refuse and bicycle storage in the property, and the property was much smaller. It was just a single unit, and we had 4 units, so we had more space to play with to put the refuse and cycling storage in the property. And actually we have like a door on the side of the property that faces the street, so basically that's where the refuse storage is going to be. Plus we also handled the use of the property very early on, so we knew what to ask of the sellers to basically then be able to prove what the use of the property is to the council, and basically get PD under a slightly different class than the other guy tried, because he tried on a PD that was valid when he applied, but it wouldn't be valid when we were applying for it. So there was a few bits that we looked. Adam is asking about a couple of lots. I think he has 6 and 12. Let's look. Let's pick one.
Let's go lot 6. Let's go lot 6.
That's Manchester.
Is it? Let's go lot 12.
Putney. Yes.
Hey, Putney. That's better. Yeah, let's do 12.
Putney. Cool. Let me just share the screen again. Share screen.
Well, Sue Berner's got a question here while you're pulling all that stuff up. Is now a good opportunity to put offers in pre-auction? I'm nervous as cannot view, thinking about putting in a low offer, going along the lines of worst case scenario. So I think, Sue, what's important is don't think that you're putting in a low offer. Yeah, you have to start thinking of these things as reasonable offers that you're putting forward, and then you have to put a reasoned case forward as to why you're going at the guide price or below guide price. So you can stipulate, oh, I can't see it, so I'm going to assume worst case internal condition, or you can say market forces are stipulating actually the risk is too high at that price point, or you can put in any. I always talk about putting in an offer and positioning yourself. So position yourself. I'm an investor of X number of years. I buy a number of these properties in this area. I've been doing this for so long. I'm interested in this property, but at that value, it doesn't make sense for me. And these are the reasons why. And this is my offer. Because that auctioneer or the person you're speaking to, that auction company, then has to either send that segment of your email off to their client and say, what do you think? Or they have to call up their client and read out your offer. And what you're doing is you're positioning yourself to that client as being someone who's qualified as an existing property professional, and someone who has reasoned a value out of what they think they're able to achieve or what they're able to progress in. And as Piotr was saying, Savills 51 lots, that's like a quarter, if not a third, in at least in the last auction, of the number of lots that they would be offering. So these people are people who are positioned to sell. These are the motivated buyers that everyone's looking for. Everyone's doing these massive mail campaigns. Open up the website, go and have a look. There are 51 motivated sellers there. Just position yourself. Positioning is key.
Yes. This flat, it's a 2nd floor flat, 2 bedrooms in a purpose-built block by the looks of it, and it's in Putney. So this is Putney High Street, not far from the tube and the train, so it looks good. It has 14 flats, so 128 flats. It's a private estate built in 1930s. And the flat is approximately 846 square foot, so pretty big flat for the price. And it needs quite a bit of refurb. Nice features. That looks really good. I like it. I think it's oh, they did open this. Very good.
And there was a comment early on that I think we skipped past, but who was it? I think it was Jenny that asked it. And you know, this is something that not just auctioneers miss out, because it's very rare that this is done for auctions, but estate agents miss out on it. They never ever do a Matterport of the communal areas, right? And I think, you know, that may be something that they'll have to build into doing, because I think if you're not able to get into the physical property, you won't be able to get into the communal areas, and it is valuable having a look at the communal areas too.
I think the tiles could stay.
Yeah.
It looks oh look, and the matching tiles in the kitchen.
It's a little bourgeois, isn't it? Hello.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, I think it looks good. It's a really big flat for the price.
It looks like half the bathroom's been ripped out and the flooring, so half your work is done.
Flat.
That's nice. That's nice and big.
Gigantic.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah, so I think it's a good price. I mean, the flat would need something like whatever 50-60K minimum to spend, probably maybe even more. I don't know. And you might need, because it's a private block, you might need some licenses for alterations and stuff like that. But if you can have this refurbished and still be below £500 per square foot, I think that's good. I think that's good. So 846 square feet, a 350K guide price. So let's say you're all in at about 450. 450 divided by 846. So yeah, if you're below 450 on everything, you'll be below £500 per square foot at too many zeros. Yeah, 531. So I think
so that includes purchase and works, right? That's what you mean by that calculation. Yeah. So that's not a maximum bid calculation. That's a all-in costs for value kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know what the prices are there, like what things are selling for. What prices. The lease is over not just under 100 years, 90 something. So it's not too bad. Ground rent is quite high. And it's got a parking space on the lease as well. I think it looks good. It's got potential, Adam.
Yeah, it's a good spot, Adam.
It's yeah. What other questions do you have there? Going to be wrapping up soon. And the location is pretty good. Schools, transport attractive. Development is a landmark one in prominent corner position. 565, 650 and value. Great stuff, Adam.
Yeah. That's a good spot.
Yeah, there'll be service charges and yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
done there.
Yeah, I mean, the trick is with blocks like this, you want to see what the management pack is, so what the last 2 years service charge has been at least. You want to ask the question if there is a pending Section 20, or you know, if there is a sink fund and how much that is, and things like that. So just for leasehold properties, just you want to don't assume, and if it's not in the legal pack, just, you know, make sure that you're asking the smart, intelligible questions. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. If one was buying a refurb, would you need to pay stamp duty? Of course, you need to pay stamp duty, Vinay. What would you?
Stamp duty at the point of purchase. There's no escape. So yeah. The only way you'd be able to do something like that is, you know, if you'd gone direct to a vendor and you'd agreed to buy the property in did an option or something like that, and then refurbished it and then sold it, then you wouldn't be paying stamp duty because you wouldn't have bought it. But then again, there are ways. Yeah, most likely it's a very difficult area. So yeah, or JV. You can JV with someone, and if they haven't got the money to do the works, and then you can do a split, or you can underwrite it straight. You can do many things.
Sounds good. Well, guys, we'll leave you to browse through the Savills catalog, and auction house catalog is also released. So you can start looking at that as well. I think they've got about 70 lots or something like that.
Something like that. And we're going to have a special guest next week, which is we're going to go through. Is it the Auction House London catalogue we're doing next week?
We do what we think is best.
We'll do whatever's out there.
Yeah, we'll pick a lot that's interesting from one of the auctions, and then we're just gonna look a bit more into details of that. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm on my first day of fasting. I'm fasting for 3 days on water, and you will see if I'm gonna turn up tomorrow at 9 a.m. It might be just Jay.
God, no, this is not good. I remember when he did the intermittent fasting. Unbelievable.
I might show up in a mask. I've got a mask as well. Be like this.
All of a sudden, there's great improvements. There you go.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. We will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. And yeah, if you have questions, keep us posted. And no, Kim, it's not vodka water.
No, but surprisingly, Piotr very rarely drinks. He's a disgraced Polish person. Vegetarian and no alcohol. He's not allowed back into the country.
We revealed enough details about me, Jay.
You still haven't told us what your favourite colour is, Piotr. We've all been waiting. We're all on tender hooks. We all want to know.
I'll reveal this on day 30 on Facebook.
All right, brilliant, guys. Keep safe, keep well. It was a pleasure spending the morning with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.